Hey Edgar, I enjoyed playing with you too. This is Edgar and this is Edgar's Roadmap to Success. Unlike most of my clients, we were able to skip over a lot of the stuff that I go over with a lot of my clients because he's a really well-behaved dog. He only has a couple problems and most of them are outlined in the video above. This is his Roadmap to Success. I'm going to go over the things we talked about in the session. Well, I'm going to start with one of the problems that he has is on walks. On walks, he wants to run up and jump up and play with everybody. Now, for dogs, whoever's in front is perceived to be the leader. So when we're walking him, if he's in front of us, he's going to be less likely to listen to us. So it's nice to teach a dog to walk next to you. So let's say that we're walking down the street and one of our neighbors comes out and he really likes that neighbor. Yes. Oh, really? You want more treats? Yes, I know you do. I'm going to leave a bag of treats here for you, buddy, I promise. So as we're walking towards the neighbor, as soon as he gets excited, stop. Wait for him to come back to you. And an important lesson for dogs is to learn they can't meet everybody that they see. We think, well, he likes it, it's fun for him, but it's not healthy for him because then everybody he sees, he thinks he's guaranteed going to be able to meet. So one of the things you might want to do is try to do like every other. I'm training one of my dogs to be a service dog, so I know how to train a service dog. I don't need one, but I have clients that have asked me for that. When you're doing a training with a service dog, we ask people not to pet or interact with a service dog because it needs to pay attention to its handler. If I'm somebody who might have a seizure, if somebody's petting the dog, that might be the 1 second when I'm about to seize and that he needs to alert me or do something. And so if he's preoccupied, he's looking for everybody to give him a treats and attention. So one of the things we do is have him practice going. I took him to a concert to Omaha, and people are like, well, they're so mean to bring your dog. None of us can pet him. I'm like, I get to have him practice walking by 6,000 people in one afternoon. That's wonderful practice for him because nobody gets to pet him. And so he doesn't look around for everybody to pet him. So for him, if everybody he gets to meet, he gets to pet a pet from or jumps up, then he's going to be like that for everybody. So every once in a while, maybe every other or every third person you allow to pet him. But if he starts pulling and whimpering and whining, we just immediately stop, make him come back to you, try to avoid pulling on the leash, make a kissing sound like, yes. And then we're going to have a treat ready, or hold our hand like this and lead him back to you, tell him to sit. When he's sitting, he's calm. Then we take another step or two towards the person. If he gets excited and pulls ahead, we stop again. So what we're saying is when you get excited and run in front of us, we stop. If you stay next to me and walk next to me at a nice pace, we continue. We walk all the way up to that person. Now when we get to the person, I would ask the person, I would again have one of those treat pouches like I mentioned and have some high value training treats. Everybody's like, can I pet him? He's such a good looking dog. Would you like to give him a treat? Oh, I would love to. So you one up them. Now the treat is what we call a positive reinforcer. It could be pets, it could be sausage, it could be pulling on there's a lot of things the dogs like. But in this case, he really likes the treat, so we'll just use what he likes. So when we get to the neighbor, we say sit. When he sits, we put it in the treat in his mouth and say the word sit. Now remember, every time you put a treat in his mouth, he should hear the command word immediately after it goes in the mouth, not before. So he sits, you put the treat in his mouth and say sit. Then you hand the neighbor a treat, and then they say, hey, Gert, and he gets up and you tell him to sit. And when he sits, they give him the treat as well. So we're conditioning or training him that if you sit in front of people, they will give you a treat or a reward. And you can do the petting, but the petting gets you so close, a lot of times dogs jump up on you. Sitting is putting something in the mouth and I get to chew it. So it kind of separates those a little bit and it helps him practice a good behavior. Now, part of this behavior, and a lot as a dog psychologist, most of what I do is really fixing dog problems caused by humans. Puppies, when they're this small, they come and jump up on our shin and we reach over and we pet them. Well, anything our puppy or dog is doing when we pet them is what we're reinforcing. So what we're saying is the best way to ask a human to pet you is to jump up on their shin. What's cute at this size will not be as cute at this size or at this size. So when you guys come home, if he's excited and jumps up on you and you pet him, you're going to make it worse. So instead, when you come home, if he's all excited, just ignore him. Even though he's not jumping up on you or barking on or freaking out, he's excited, his energy level, that's what we would be reinforcing. Just like humans, dogs make mistakes when they're overexcited. So if he's all excited and we pet him and we get him more excited, he's probably going to make more mistakes like jumping up or doing other things like that. So what we're going to do is just to pretend like he's not even there. And as soon as he's like almost loses interest, he's like, oh man, they used to really like when I come home. Then I'm going to turn and reach for him. As soon as I do that, he's going to wiggle and get excited and I pull my arm back and keep him on. So you're going to have several times as you come in, when he's settled, you start reaching for him. This is kind of like what I talked about in the video above for the door, reaching for the handle, but not making it all the handle, because as soon as he gets excited, and that's a form of operant conditioning, he controls the situation. If he stays calm, I will continue all the way through to petting him. If he gets excited, he stops me from petting him. But remember, the timing of that is supremely important. I tell my clients you have 3 seconds to correct or reward the dog, but there's a big difference between 1 second and 3 seconds. So if he jumps up on you, you're like, no, oh, the dog guy said I have to stop petting him when he jumps up on me. I'll call you back later. No, I totally remember to do that tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see you then. Bye-bye. We missed that 3-second window. So interrupt your conversation with people on the phone, with each other. Gotta stop. And if your timing is precise, that helps the dogs understand better. But it could be like somebody closes the door and second number 2, and then you stop petting them. It's like, oh, when the door closes, that's when they stop petting me. They get confused. So the sooner you are to the genesis of the behavior, the easier it is for the dog to understand. Now, I talked a little bit about exercise for him. Even though he's not a super high energy dog, when I came in, he had some excess energy. So I showed the Guardian some unique ways of exercising the dog. One of them using a laser, having him chase a laser. Some dogs it's not healthy for. He seemed to have a very good interest in it without being overboard. So get one of those lasers. You can get the one that I have if you want to get. And then basically, don't use it every time, but like we're in the Midwest, it's going to be icy and not very desirable to go outside sometimes in the next couple of months. So maybe you just spend 5 minutes doing the laser around the house. Remember, don't use it really jerky movements. Keep them kind of fluid. And then when you want to turn it off, run it around the corner so it's out of his line of sight, then turn it off. So he runs around the corner. He still thinks it's out there hiding somewhere. And he'll spend a couple minutes looking for it. Now make sure you don't ever put it in his eye. That's dangerous to other people's eyes. Make sure if he looks up at it, you turn it off so he doesn't think it jumped off the floor and went here. And don't you do your Henry Mancini orchestra conductor. Just kind of go like this with your hand. Also get in the habit of turning it on and off with the batteries off and going like this every once in a while so he doesn't make that association as well. Another one is to exercise on the stairs. And so go to the top of the stairs, with an empty stomach is distended. I'm almost saying half of this for, there's a veterinarian who's probably going to be watching this and she's going to be like, oh, he knows what he's talking about there. So throw it down, the treat down the stairs and come up with a fun command word that needs to go down, maybe a special Air Force base. And then when he comes back up, give him another treat. And count each down up as 1. First time you do it with an empty stomach and do it as many times until he just lays down on the floor and says, I'm not playing this game anymore. And you count each down up as 1, let's say it's 25. Well, then I usually exercise them 30 to 50% of whatever that maximum number is. So if it's 25, maybe 10 to 15 of those. Or 13, math is not my strong suit. There are other things you can do like Googling scent games. A dog's nose controls 60% of their brain, and it's very physically draining for them to do mental exercise. So the reason I mention all this exercise, not that he needs a ton, the Guardians do an amazing job. They take him for 4 or 5 walks a day. I think this is the first Guardian out of like 4,000 people I've worked with that probably exercise their dog enough. It's almost never the case. But those alternative forms of exercise are nicest ways to do it when it's inside or it's really short, or if you get a call, hey, our son's coming over. Oh, we don't have enough time to walk him out. He'll be here in 7 minutes. Well, we can take him upstairs and throw him on the stairs or whatever it is. Ideally, though, we'd want him to have about 10 to 15 minutes after the exercise ends to catch his breath before the people come in. So if people are going to come visit you, just say, hey, let us know when you leave your house. And then you can exercise him and give him that 10 minutes. We burn off that top level of energy. It's going to be much easier for him to do the things we talked about in the video above. Now, exercise is not going to solve your problems, but lack of it will amplify your problems, and proper exercise sprinkled throughout the day every about 2 to 4 hours will help make fixing him a lot easier. Now, just to give him a little boost of confidence, and also, not that he really needs the confidence, but I taught him a couple of basic tricks and commands. One of them is I call hurricane. I just put a treat in front of his nose, and we led him around into a circle. As soon as he came out full around, I popped the treat in his mouth, said the word hurricane. Now, for this one, when you're doing treats, you want to keep the treat at the nose at the same level. A lot of people, when they take it away, go like this. That creates a lunging upwards. So keep it when you're going this way so it's all horizontal the whole time. Don't go up as you're going around. The other thing is keeping it within 4 inches of his nose. So if you go like this and it gets this far, come back and literally touch his nose. Keep doing that until he tracks with you. And don't try to do anything with him when he's sniffing. He's not going to listen to you, and it's going to basically be him practicing not listening to you. Wait for him to get done with his sniffs, then do the exercise. And once he's done the exercise enough, he'll want to do the exercise. He knows there's a treat at the end of it. Why am I going for scraps when I get the whole enchilada right there? Now, the other exercise I showed was a hand targeting exercise. Now, when you're doing that, make sure you're chopping your hand. So if he's not, wait for him to look at you. As soon as he looks, then chop your hand. And at first, keep it about 4 inches away from his nose. He's pretty smart, and so he got it pretty quickly. Then I can go 4 inches, then 5 inches, 6 inches, whatever it is, and get further and further away. But keep your hand diagonal when you chop, and when you chop, freeze it. If he doesn't go to your hand within about 2 seconds, pull it back and chop again closer to his face. And once you chop and he's going for it, freeze your hand there. When he touches it with his nose, take your other hand with the treat and put the treat there. When he licks it up, say the word target. Now, after a while, you want to be 6 inches away and a foot away and farther and farther. Eventually, you can go target and he'll run from across the room. Now, this is an alternative way of calling your dog, but I primarily use it when I want to reposition my dog for pictures or to get it out of my way. If I'm carrying some of the dogs in front of me, I go like this and move them this way. People look at me like I'm funny. They're like, man, do you know the force or something? You just move the dog around with that. But we're just conditioning a dog to do that. As I mentioned off camera, this is something we do with dogs that are in shelters. We want dogs that approach humans and touch their hands are adopted much more frequently. So in shelters, a lot of times what we do is we'll teach dogs a targeting exercise. So people come up with their hand on the kennel, they come and put their nose right up there, they get adopted a little bit faster, one of the little tricks of the trade. So the targeting exercise and the circles or the hurricane exercise, I'd like both of you to practice with him twice a day, each one of you, for both exercises. So each one of you is going to practice 4 exercises a day for about a week to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, maybe through the end of the year, where it's right before Christmas when we're filming this. And so you'll get better and better at it. And eventually you can just say hurricane, and he'll do the circle, and then you give him the treat afterwards. Now, when I'm first doing the hurricane, I'm going like this, keeping it the same level, nose level, all the way around. After a while, I'm going to start doing it. If this is his nose, I'm going to start doing it higher than his nose. And eventually I'm going to be like way up here going hurricane, and he'll do it because he's manipulating or he's gotten conditioned to do it. But don't go from here to here. That's too much. At first it's just keep on doing these until he's just going really, really quickly. And then I start moving a little bit higher as a circle, and then higher and higher and higher. Eventually you just go like this. And eventually you'll be like, and he'll just do it. And again, if you do go to the dog park or he's around another dog that is trying to mount him, this is a wonderful way to get that other dog to stop doing it. You do it 2 or 3 times. After a while, the other dog's like, I'm looking for an easier dog to mount. Now, the targeting exercise, again, do that. And when you do the hurricane, I would do this I would grab 5 of the treats I'm going to leave with you and tear them in half, so you're going to get 10 practices. Right. And for the targeting, I would do probably about the same thing, about 10 treats. Now, when you do these exercises, dogs do not generalize very well. They need to do things in different iterations in different locations. So don't just practice here, practice there, in the other room, upstairs, downstairs, in the basement, all over the place, so he can do all these exercises in different places. Now, some of the other things we went over are little tricks that I've come up with as a dog psychologist. One of them is what I call passive training. Passive training is a form of operant conditioning. Without getting too in the weeds, basically what it is waiting for the dog to do something voluntarily that we want and marking it and rewarding it. Marking it by giving a single word command word. Whenever you come up with these things, try to come up with a fun command word, because dogs should read facial expressions. So if you come up with it, you say, off it, and the dog does a circle, and people laugh because we're near Offutt Air Force Base, that makes people laugh. That makes him more motivated to want to do this. So I'm a big proponent of coming up with fun command words. Now, I really say it twice if the dog knows the command. Let's say he knows hurricane. I would say hurricane, and when he does the hurricane, then I would give him the treat, or I pet him and say hurricane a second time during the reward stage. First time is the command, second time is the reinforcer. And if he doesn't know it, then I do hurricane. I don't say the command, I just go hurricane. So I'm only paying him on the reinforcement level. So that's what helps. And eventually, after enough auditory, you just say hurricane and he'll do it. If you want to test, because dogs can actually read your lips, if the dog's over there and I want him to do hurricane, I want to see if he has the verbal cue, I would go hurricane. And if he does it, then I know he's got it. If not, he's probably reading my lips. Okay, so those are some exercises to practice. Something else I would invite you guys to do, and I'll go back to petting with the purpose of passive training it, but I would also recommend you guys go to YouTube. Look for dog tricks. I know he doesn't know a lot of tricks, and that's okay, because he's a well-behaved, balanced dog, but it will boost his self-esteem. It will help him respect you a little bit more, because you're the one involved in him learning this new skill. And then when guests or people come over, if he's being a pistol, you can tell him to do a hurricane, or bang your dad, or roll over, or fetch me my slippers, or whatever it is. It'll also give him more of a motivation for life, because he has jobs and ways to contribute. Okay, passive training is basically a form of operant conditioning, like I mentioned. It's basically waiting for the dog to voluntarily offer you the behavior you want. So if he comes up and sits in front of you, pet him and say sit. Every time he comes to you, pet him and say come or here, whatever your word is. And come up with a list of the official command words. And if one of you says come and the word is here, you say vocabulary, the person goes here. Makes it easy for them to remember. Now, if he's not coming to you, what I do is a lot of times I hold my hand like this and cup my fingers up just a little bit so it looks like I have a treat, even though I don't have one. Normally, I would have a treat when I first do this, and I go like this. Well, he's probably asleep. But usually, the lower your hand goes, the more appealing it goes for the dog. So say, come once. If he doesn't come, then make a kissing sound like... I got a little bit of a look. And as soon as he looks at you, before you kiss, hold your hand up like this. When he looks at you, this is what he sees you doing. As soon as he looks, start going down. And go literally all the way to the floor if you have to. You'll go low enough where he'll come to you, because he's like, oh, it looks like you're about to give me a treat. And then when he does come, pet him and say come. So since his come is not that great, every time he comes to you on his own, pet him and say the word come or here, whichever word you want to use. But do this for everything. Pet him for sitting, for laying down, for stretching, bringing you the sock or any other toy or item that he's allowed to do. So passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer the behavior on its own and then just paying attention to it. Petting with a purpose is if the dog comes up and nudges, which he does, or paws or jumps up for attention, he's telling me what to do. If I do it, that reinforces that he's in charge. So if he comes and jumps up on me, what I'm going to do is retract, and I can either tell him to sit or just wait. I was just waiting and he figured it out. But if you want, you just retract and say sit, but only say it once. The more you say it, the less you mean it. Say once, and as soon as he sits, reach down, pet him under the chin like we talked about, and say the word sit, and only the word sit. Not good sit, not oh, what a smart dog you are, look how you sat down, just sit. And then you can pet him as long as you want after that. Now, also remember to use the word paycheck. If you come in the room and see someone's petting him and he's standing up, you're like, paycheck. That person should say, that is a gentle reminder I might have forgotten to pet with a purpose. Even if I did it right, I'm going to still stop petting, tell the dog to sit, then tell the person afterwards, actually ask the dog to sit before he came in the room, you just missed it. But it's just, we don't realize how often we pet without a purpose or reward undesirable behaviors. Now, after a while, what will happen with petting with a purpose is he's going to come and sit in front of you to prepay for attention. When he does that, make sure you do pet him and recognize. And if you're too far away, come up with a word. Say, treasure or reward or bounty or booty or whatever you want to say. And that person looks at the dog. If he's sitting, pet him and say sit. Just narrate whatever he's doing. If he's standing there, you assume he came. Remember, you only have 3 seconds. So if somebody watches him walk up to me and he sits down, that was 1 second. They saw it happen. They told me, recognize, that's the command word. I have now 1 second to start petting him. If I say, what am I recognizing him for? I missed the window. So if somebody says recognize, come if he's standing, sit if he's sitting, crash if he's laying down. But the more that we come up with those vocabulary words, the easier it's going to be for him to understand what we want. Let me see, what else? Does he get excited when you leash him up? Put him on the leash for a walk?
If I say walk.
Okay. So a lot of people will say, should we take the dog for your W-A-L-K? If that's the case, I would say walk like 100 times a day when you're not walking him. And when you are walking him, just walk over to pick up the leash and don't say anything. Most of us confuse excited for happy when it comes to dogs, but excited is an unbalanced state of mind. And if we get him all excited, it's harder for him to pay attention and he's going to be more prone to making mistakes. So the best thing we can do is just walk over, get a leash out, tell him to come, sit, put it on, and then go for the walk. He'll figure out what's going on. Make sure that the humans are eating something before they feed him. That's the most important activity in the dog world. So it's a real simple way to just help your dog see you as being the leader. Before you put food in the bowl, if you're not going to eat a real meal, just get a chip or cracker or something you can eat in 5 or more bites. And then when you get done, then prepare his food. And then when he takes his first bite of food, I would give him a fun command word that means eat. Your favorite food or your favorite restaurant. I have 4 dogs. I say grub, chow, feast, and eat. Eat is not the one that I came up with. But I feed them one at a time. And so I can say chow, that's my first dog's permission word to eat. The other 3 are sitting in the corner with food in their bowls, and I leave the room. And when my first dog comes to my room, my office, I yell grub, that's my second dog's word to eat. The way I assign that is through passive training or operant conditioning. Well, not operant, I guess that's more classical. So basically, as soon as the dog takes his first bite of food, I say the word chow. So the other 3 dogs hear the word chow, there's no food in their mouth. But the dog whose command word, chow, means there's food in my mouth. After about 2 months, you could say chow, and he knows that means I get to eat, and the other 3 dogs don't. When he leaves, and I say grub, and that's the second dog's, and I assign it the same way. It's what I call passive training. But it is a form of classical conditioning. I'm trying to think, anything else?
We just need to practice it a lot.
Yeah, practicing. Now, what a lot of people do, I find, is they practice kind of, I don't want to say half-heartedly, but they do a little bit of practice, but they don't fully complete the practice. And then it just elongates. And there's a movie line where one of the characters said, you know what we're going to do in this half-assed, pardon my French? We should start doing this whole-assed. So you want to do the whole thing all at once. So set yourself like a 2-week window where we're going to practice having somebody come by every single day or a couple people a day. When we come home, we're going to be going to the door. We're just going to rep it. I have people in California. One woman, she's like, I'm ordering, she was single. She goes, I don't have anybody to practice with. She goes, I just grabbed the phone book back when they had phone books. She goes, I just called everything that delivered. I had, home delivery for diapers and laundry service and check the furnace and ordered a pizza. And every one of those people came in. We practiced the thing that we did in the door exercise. Hey, use your environment, use your surroundings. But basically, he's a great little dog. So, I mean, I think you just need a little bit of fine tuning with this and he'll be great. Now, if you do have questions, you forgot what we went over or forgot to ask me something or something stops working, please call or text me. If I don't hear you, I assume that means everything's going well. So if there is a question or problem, I don't care if it's 5 seconds after I leave the door, if it's 5 years after I leave the door, I don't charge for phone calls. I want you to call me or text me. Program my phone number into your phone so if you need me, you don't have to go looking. You'll forget my name right away. But if you put doggone problems in there, anytime you search for dog, I'll be the first one up. Send me a text message and I'll get back to you with a solution.
Great.
All right. Well, this is Edgar. Yeah, buddy. Hey, have you been snoozing? Yeah, you want to say goodbye to America? They're over here. This is Edgar, and this is Edgar's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it. Happy holidays.